Hi guys, this is Court, and I'm doing this tutorial for the billionth time in a row, so let's just dive straight into it because I've been having computer problems. Right here we have an instance of analog. It's very transient in nature. Transient is just a word we use in audio engineering to basically say it decays quickly over time. I have a compressor over here that's not doing anything. Compressors usually have different views, and I'm using its over time view so that we can see how the transients are shaped by compressors, because a compressor is essentially a transient shaping. And we can see it's the amplitude envelope, it's doing its thing. It's working right. Everything's working right, working good. Let's say for some reason we wanted to shape those transients because we didn't have access to these amplitude controls for some reason. Well, that's where a compressor comes in. A compressor is a mathematical function. It basically compares input volume to what you want the output volume to be, and it shapes the transient by some amount that you specify. So for every decibel of input volume, you get so many decibels of output volume. And we basically say if the input volume is over a certain decibel rating, we call that the threshold. Reduce it by a certain amount, we call it the ratio on the output volume. It is called the ratio because it's the ratio of input volume to output volume, which also is incidentally the slope of this portion of the line. Like any other effect, it has an attack and a release. Here, let's start compressing things so you can kind of see. So the first version of compression I'm going to show you is brick wall limiting. Brick wall limiting is when you say, I don't want anything to go above this line, and it basically shuts off the signal. There are different detection modes for how we want our compression to work. This is root mean squared, so you can see it's letting in more of the signal than peak. It's because root mean squared basically looks at the signal over time and it averages it, and it's not looking at the absolute amplitude of the signal like peak is. Expansion is the reverse of compression. It's basically saying for every decibel above threshold will increase its volume. Attack and decay are your standard attack and decay parameters. So let's brick wall limit it again at a really low threshold. Attack just says how quickly do we want the effect to take place. So at a sharp attack, by the way, this is interesting. Now we can see the peak RMS and the difference between the root mean squared and the peak more clearly. So the root mean squared is kind of averaging what's been happening over here. So it's a smoother form of compression where the peak is just looking at exact amplitude, and it tends to be clickier. Either way, so attack is how quickly do we want the effect to take place. It's useful when we want little portions of the transient to slip through. Release is how quickly do we want the effect to end. This is useful for when we want one transient to slip through, but we want the rest reduced. And the last thing we're going to look at is knee. Knee is just a little smoothing function we can use on our ratio. It basically says if a volume is within X decibels of the threshold, reduce it by a fraction of the ratio. So this kind of gets rid of clicks too in general. So I'm making this really short because I'm very tired of talking about compressors, and I hope this was helpful. And yeah, it's everything you need to know about compressors besides how to use them musically.